Happy Thursday, Facebook friends. Welcome back to Facebook. I'm Angie Garza, Director of Professional Learning and Educational Services at ROE 47, serving Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside counties. And if you're joining us back here this fine Thursday in the month of November, you'll know that it's time for another edition of Teacher Talk. And one of our primary reasons that we come to you every Thursday from our Facebook platform is to celebrate and share the good news of all the wonderful things that are happening in our Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside County schools. And so today is no different. We are going to be highlighting one of my favorite districts, dare I say, in Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside counties, and having a conversation with Superintendent Jennifer DuBois from Paw Paw School District in Paw Paw, Illinois. But before we introduce Jennifer and get started on these catch-up conversations and sharing all the wonderful things that are happening in Paw Paw this fine month of November, I need to say a happy Thursday and good morning to my friend, colleague, and co-host, Ms. Stacy Dingus. Good morning, Stacy. Wonderful, as always, to catch up with all of our schools and districts just to kind of talk about what's happening, and especially here in the month of November as we recognize and celebrate our veterans. We know that many of our schools have different programs and different things that they do to honor those veterans in our community.
Yes, I'm excited about the teacher talks that we have scheduled for the month of November. I feel like we do a lot of featuring of new programming, maybe some curriculum, some different initiatives that our schools are trying to, work into their everyday Monday through Friday school calendar. For the month of November, we're kind of featuring the extras, the important stuff, really, that maybe sometimes gets overlooked. Yet I love when we can find a school that has really said, this is important to us and important to our students, and so we're going to make it work. And today is a perfect example of that conversation when we talk to Jennifer about what's happening in Paw Paw for their Veterans Day program. So excited to have this teacher talk and have this conversation, Angie.
Let's get to it. I am so happy to reintroduce, because she's been here before, but to reintroduce our listening audience to my good friend and Paw Paw Superintendent Jennifer DuBois. And so, Jennifer, as we get started this morning, if you wouldn't mind just kind of kicking us off, reminding our listening audience who you are, and maybe talking a little bit about your path to becoming the superintendent at Paw Paw School District.
Yes, good morning, Angie and Stacy. Thank you for having me on again. I love coming on here with you guys. It's exciting to be here. So my path to Paw Paw started many years ago. I have been in education for 20 plus years, and I started out as a classroom teacher. I started out as an agriculture teacher and science teacher for high school. And then I became a school counselor. From there, I was an elementary principal. And then from there, I moved into the superintendency and found my way down to Paw Paw, where I am now the superintendent and the principal here at Paw Paw. So I carry both roles here on a daily basis, and I have been at Paw Paw for 5 years. So it is a great school district to be in.
Paw Paw is one of our smaller school districts that we have in our area. Tell us a little bit about your district. What are some things that you're proud of? What are some things that are important to the students and the school community at Paw Paw?
So Paw Paw is a small district. We are a K-8 building, and we average around 120 students. We are a deactivated high school. So we send our high school students to Indian Creek, which is a neighboring school district. And we average around 50 students that we send there every school year. A very small rural district, but we're super excited. And we have a lot of different things that we have going on here in our district. Like this year, we're really excited. We are piloting a new SEL curriculum this year. We're piloting a couple new SEL curriculums this year at Paw Paw. We're excited to be looking at Better Together Cubed and Character Strong. And one of the unique things that we're doing this year is, as we're piloting, we're making sure to co-teach these pilots in all of our grades. So not only is our social worker coming in, but our teachers, our classroom teachers are co-teaching all of these curriculums together. So that way, we're making sure that both the classroom teacher and the social worker are together able to look at these curriculums so that we know that we're getting a really good understanding across the board as to how these programs are, and making sure that everyone in our district has a good handle on which program we want to go with and how they're working. So that's one of the things I love about Pawpaw, is that the small school district and our small staff were able to really make sure everyone's on the same page and that we can come together with things. So it's really a great district to be in. I really love it here.
Okay, so I'm not going to let you get off that easily because
I didn't think you probably would.
because there are so many things happening in
There
district. I
are a
mean,
lot.
you just touched on a couple of them, which are like huge lifts in and of themselves. But when you came into the district, there were so many things that were kind of in process and moving.
Yeah,
And when that cycle of improvement kind of concluded, you said, this is important. We're going to lather, rinse, repeat this process. So can you talk a little bit about that and kind of how
absolutely.
that's changed the dynamic of your building and your kind of your purview, your
Mhm.
vision, your leadership in that process?
Yeah, so you're right. When I came in 5 years ago, Papa had just started year one of an intensive school improvement plan. And we were, definitely a comprehensive designated school district and had a lot of work to do. And last year was our last year of that 5 year plan. And you're right, we got to the end of that plan, and not only myself, but our whole staff said, okay, great, but we are not done. Every one of my staff members agreed that we have so much more to do, and there's so much more work we can do to make our district even better than we already are. And we showed a lot of growth and made a lot of improvements. And both our elementary and our junior high were commendable schools at the end of that 4 year or that 5 year cycle, which is amazing to see the growth and work that our staff and students put in. So you're right, we did. We dug back in with Angie and came up with a new 5 year plan for our school improvement plan, and figured out those areas that we wanted to focus on. And SEL was a huge piece of that. And that's exactly right. Like I really worked with my staff to make sure that we all were on the same page and that our goals were common across what everyone felt was important, and that we all are working together. And so we definitely sit down. We have PLCs every other week, and we look at what's important across that. So SEL was one of them. Another thing that we really realized was really important was our MTSS plan, and the fact that previously we really only focused on just ELA teachers and math teachers coming together for that. And this year we're piloting a new MTSS program where all of our staff are involved in our MTSS meetings. So we literally have our specials teachers are in, our social studies teachers, our science teachers, all of our teachers are part of that plan. So they're all coming in and being part of these meetings where we group up into separate sections where we're talking about academics, we're talking about social emotional, and then we're talking about those interventions and how we're going to put it all together. And every staff member has a voice in that conversation. So we all have a piece to play, and we're all bringing part to the table so that every student is heard and every student is seen as we have those conversations. So yeah, it's a great community to be a part of here.
So I love the fact that you mentioned community, because the community, when I think about the work that you and your teachers do in district, it's not just the school community. You're also engaging the families, the parents, and the community at large. And a beautiful example of that, I mean, it happens all the time, but in, the month of November, a really wonderful example of that is your Veterans Day programming. So that day is quickly approaching. It's on Tuesday, November 11th. And so, can you talk a little bit about what the school has planned to recognize the veterans in your community, to celebrate them and to celebrate that observance, and then also, kind of continue to build that idea of community connection?
Absolutely. So I would like to start off before I get into our programming to emphasize that we are a K-8 building. So when I talk about this, I'm going to talk about our student council. And when I talk about our student council, I'm talking about junior high students. So these are sixth, seventh, and eighth graders when I talk about the planning and programming that they're doing. So our student council plans our Veterans Day program. So these are sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, and I am super proud of what they do. And they do have a teacher advisor, but our junior high student council plans a breakfast for all of our community veterans. And so they invite them in the morning on Veterans Day, and they provide them with a very wonderful breakfast. There's biscuits and gravy and egg casseroles and pastries and coffee and juice. A wonderful breakfast that they can come into where they're able to bring their family members and sit down and have fellowship with each other and just share stories. Our students are able to sit down with our veterans and enjoy conversations and talk with them and learn about, you know, what they experienced and hear their stories. So that takes place for an hour, and our students send out invitations. Our students greet them at the door. Our students serve them their breakfast and provide decorations on the tables, clean up after them, and take care of that whole breakfast for them. They organize everything and make sure that everything is ready for them. And then after that, at 8:30, they invite all of our veterans into our gym for a program. And again, our student council organizes this whole program. They work with all of our grades, K-8, and each grade level is assigned a different branch of the military, where they put together a banner that they recognize that military branch and say thank you to that military branch, and, you know, show their thanks and their appreciation to that branch. Our choir will sing a couple songs. And then we also always allow the student council will take a microphone around to our veterans, allow them to introduce themselves, talk about what branch they served in and the amount of time that they served in that branch, and share any short story that they would like to. This year they are going to, I believe, do the white table presentation, which is for the fallen soldier or the missing soldier, where they present and set a table for the missing soldier, and they talk through a script that explains what each piece of that represents. Which is it's a very moving presentation. They also will find a speaker to come in and talk, and it's almost always a community veteran who will come in and tell their story and talk about their service, where they served, and just the impact that it had on them. And then they invite all of our junior high students will go through and shake all of our veterans' hands, introduce themselves, and have conversations with all of them to end that program. So it is a really moving program. And again, our junior high students, our sixth, seventh, and eighth graders are the ones that are organizing and planning this program. And it is for our community members. And it's a great program, and it's a great way for our students to just, you know, understand and have a better idea of what our community members, you know, went through, and understand the branches of the military, and just learn about the patriotism and the sacrifices that these community members made for our, you know, for our students.
That is impressive for sure. Definitely knowing how small the community of Paw Paw is, I would guess that it is a well-attended event as well, and people looking forward to it actually. So that is just great, and kudos to the junior high student council students for planning that. Jennifer, can you talk a little bit about the importance of, or that you feel maybe, of having an in-person school attendance day for Veterans Day? In the past, maybe years ago, like when we were in school, sometimes Veterans Day was a holiday, or recognized at school by a holiday, and students were not in attendance. I know recently that has kind of gone to the wayside, and a lot of our local schools have students attend school on Veterans Day. Can you talk a little bit about maybe that shift and change, and why it's important that students are attending school on this special day?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I definitely think that it's an opportunity for our students to see our veterans in our community. So that way, when they're out and about in town, at activities, they recognize these community members, and they're able to go up and say thank you to them. They can express those things, and they can learn to understand the benefits that they enjoy, you know, from the bravery. I look at that from the bravery that these veterans, sacrificed, for all of the freedoms that we have. And so I think by us being in school and putting on this assembly and showing their thanks, and the students showing their thanks, that's a way for them. It's a better way for them to express that and to be able to see that firsthand.
I always love listening, and actually I get the pleasure of seeing a lot of your students and your teachers in action. And I know that that community connection, that outreach, that engagement is so important. It's important enough to be reflected in your school improvement plan. It's something that is regularly discussed at those PLCs that you referenced. Um, Veterans Day is just that great example of a moment in November when we kind of see something visibly happening in honor of our veterans, but it's so much more in your school community. So can you talk for maybe just a little bit about some other ways that you and the teachers and the students continue to engage families and communities throughout the year at Pawpaw?
Yes, absolutely. We actually have another event coming up pretty soon in just a couple of weeks. We are doing a family learning night coming up where we are engaging across all of our disciplines. So we'll have math, English, science, social studies, the fine arts, and each area is going to come together and have activities planned out for the evening where we're going to invite all of our families and community members in to see what our curricular resources are like, to have activities that they can do. There'll be some STEM activities. And so what we're hoping is our students will be able to be there. They're going to be able to show and demonstrate some of the things that they're learning about, have some activities that they can show their parents or community members what they're doing. And so we're really hoping that we're going to have a really good turnout for this activity and just bring community members into our building, show them the great things that are happening in our building, and just let them see the wonderful things that are going on and the things that our students are learning, and show them, all the things that we're doing here and the hard work that we're putting, into the learning and education for our students.
Well, it is definitely a whole community approach to bettering not only our students' lives and their academic growth and development, but also just the community as a whole. And so, as I listen to all of the wonderful things that you, your teachers, your students, your families are doing in your school community, it is just so incredible and wonderful to see and to hear about. So thank you, and thank you to all of your staff and students for all that they do, not only to engage families, but then also especially as we're looking at our upcoming Veterans Day on November 11th to honor those veterans in the Pawpaw community for their service to not only as you mentioned, those students and kind of locally, but then also for service to our country. Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time out to share all the great news that is happening in Pawpaw. We so enjoyed the conversation, and we know that you are very busy. You are serving multiple roles and are out and about in your building all the time. So thanks for taking the time to sit down and chat with us and catch our viewers up on all, as I mentioned, the great news and the great things that are happening inside Pawpaw School District.
It was great to talk with you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we would be remiss if we did not one more time say a very special thank you to any of our listening audience who are veterans. And, as we look at our upcoming Veterans Day on November 11th, we would like to say thank you so much for your service. We value your dedication and commitment to protecting our country and our freedoms here. And we hope that you enjoy this special day and any celebrations that might be happening elsewhere in our Lee Ogle Whiteside communities. Thank you also to our listening audience and to my friend, colleague, and co-host, Ms. Stacey Dingus. As we wrap up, we want to wish you a beautiful rest of your Thursday, an even better Friday, a beautiful beautiful fall-filled weekend, and we'll see you right back here next Thursday for another edition of Teacher Talk.